So I prefer to use a swivel. That way I got a little more room to get up in here. Bottom one's off. Now I can get up here to the upper one. There we go. Now we actually got some movement. We want to go ahead and take this 213s off now. We can, whatever you want to do, or you take it off as an assembly and fight with it that way. Like I said, 13, 13, and then we'll separate the caliper from the mount. Time to back off these 13s. Now, you can almost put your socket on that 1/2 inch drive impact I got down there and get these off if you wanted to. I'm just going ahead and back them off because there's nothing really that tight holding them on. I can just use a ratchet wrench. It's just as good to me. Get that one off and get the other one off. And what we got to do, we got to figure out which way we need to pry it off, because the way it goes into the clips, it basically goes like this. It's got 2 hooks on this caliper right here, fingers that go up under. So your caliper goes up in its mount and then slides. So when we take it off, we're going to do basically the same thing. We need to get it out and come and set it off to the side. We'll go ahead and back the rest of that bolt out, and then we'll get the caliper off. Now, keeping in mind that the bracket's off now because we couldn't get to that upper 13. Go ahead and make sure you got your hand on the bracket. I'm going to go ahead and start prying this caliper off. Like I said, you got to go off this way and then down. And there we go. Got the caliper off, pads falling off, and we got our mount off. One thing you want to pay attention to on these pistons and the calipers, you want to check your boots, make sure they're not busted, cracked, or dried. You also want to make sure your slides go in and out freely. If they don't, you can have it bind up and it will chew up the pads prematurely. And there you go. You don't want to have to do it twice. This piston looks good. When we press in, we'll see how much effort we get as well. If one of the pistons doesn't want to move, we need a caliper as well. I'm going to put it up on the lift here on the back side. That way it doesn't hang free and cause any kind of undue stress on the brake line. So I've got it supported on the back side. If you need to get your clothes hanger or anything, or some wire ties, whatever it is, just kind of let it suspend by that instead of let it dangle by the brake line. Because like I said, the rubber and everything, you don't want to have any reasons for that to fail. And they can be kind of heavy depending on the vehicle. This one isn't too bad. You get you a 45, 5500 series, they got some weight to them. So definitely let them be supported by something other than the brake line. Now, everything's off as far as the brakes. Now we can move on to getting the hub assembly off. That includes both the brake rotor and the hub assembly. Now we can work on getting this whole brake rotor / hub assembly off together, and then we can worry about separating the brake rotor once we get to the bolts on the back side. Now, the way this works, they've got a spiral type thin piece of metal, almost like a snap ring style, up in here that keeps everything locked in place. It prevents the wedge that's in here from coming out. Now, the purpose for the wedge is, let me take that out right there. Let me show you this first. It's kind of spiral cut. You can see how it is. It's got a little finger right here. It sticks down. That finger goes into the square cutout. There's one square cutout on this shaft, or the portion that comes off the differential that everything lines up with. Now, looking at it a little bit closer, like I said, you can see where the notch is. And inside that notch, it's kind of hard to see right now because of the fluid and everything. Then there is a wedge. We need to get that wedge out. The wedge prevents this nut here from backing out. That's its safety feature. And then the spiral cut snap ring that went on here holds the wedge in place. So everything has a purpose of holding each other. It's kind of a team thing. That's the wedge. We'll sit it off to the side. Make sure you don't lose that or that. Now, that's where a special tool comes in. Now, like I said before, this isn't really that tight. I can almost get it off with these pair of needle nose. I can go ahead and take it loose, back it off. But the problem, what we're going to need, what the reason for the special tool is, when we go to tighten it down, we need something that we can put a specific amount of torque, which is 22 foot-pounds. We can't do that with the needle nose. So I can use that right now to help me get everything off. So I get that off, we get one bearing on the inside right here. And then we can start sliding this whole hub assembly off. At some point you can just use one hole. And there we go. Set that off to the side. Now it's a matter of just pulling back on everything. Alright, so at this point we're going to have to get the rotor assembly off. Now, the way the seal on this hub works, it grabs onto the portion of the differential that comes out and it stays kind of firmly on there and spins like I showed you. It's going to take a little bit of effort to get off, not a lot, but enough. Now you can do two things. You can either leave the nut on slightly if you want, just so that you don't spit the bearing out on the ground as you're trying to work it. We'll just put a couple turns on it. We'll try to work it. Okay, and there we go. We've got it loose. Now we can put our one hand in the front, one in the back, work it forward a little bit, and get the bearing out. And we'll set the bearing off to the side. Keep it somewhere clean so it doesn't get dirty. Now it does have a little weight, like I said. Ain't too bad. It's 45, 5500. Almost have to get in here and cradle it and get it in. This one I can get off pretty good without. We'll slide it off. Set it to the side. Now, here's the whole shaft assembly that's part of the differential that everything rides on. Of course, here are your emergency brakes. This is what they call drum and hat. Inner portion of the rotor is where the emergency brakes touch, and of course you got your disc brake caliper on the outside. Now here's how I was telling you how part of that seal stays in place. That's why you're almost going to have to always replace these seals whenever, no matter what you do. Now they're not on there that hard. You can almost get up in here with a little pry bar screwdriver, start working it side to side. But they are on there. Its intended purpose is to hold on to the differential. And it's just what I call baby steps. Take your time, work it. You'll finally get closer and closer. Like I said, this one has two pieces that stayed on here. One that's still on there tight that we're prying on right now. And the outer ring, the portion I tell you to make sure you don't crush, that stays on there too. So there you go. You've got both those off. Not using that no more. The other portion is still on the hub. So what we want to do, we want to give it a good wipe down. Maybe blow everything off as far as using some brake clean. Get that all nice and clean so that when we go back, we got a clean surface for that new seal to ride onto. And spray everything down real good. Get up in here. I'd rather spray it than blow it. I don't want brake dust everywhere. I don't want to breathe in no more than I need to. At least with the brake cleaner, it has something liquidy to stick to, and then it just goes into the catch pan. Make sure everything is nice and clean here. Mainly the surfaces where everything's going to be riding on, especially in this area here where that seal goes. We want to go real clean in here and make sure it has a good contact surface. That's looking real good. So now that's been prepped, that's ready. And we move on to getting the rotor off the hub. Here we go. We got our 8 15mm bolts we're going to take off. Like I said, they can be a little tight too. They got thread lock on it as well. So I'm going to go ahead in the meantime and get the rest of the bolts off. Once I get that off, I get you back with me.